Hello! So in this video, I am going to be walking through the process I go through to make a pattern and a dress form for myself out of duct tape. So I will be going through how I tape myself up, how I draw out the look that I want onto that tape, how I then cut it out and form actual pattern pieces from that, and then the end result I get. If you want to see how to make a dress form and pattern using duct tape, then stick around. Okay, so the first thing I do is to make sure I'm wearing some really tight-fitting clothing. And then I also make sure I'm wearing a bra that's similar to what I'll be wearing for the piece that I'm making. Next, I make sure I've got the bits I need. So firstly, I always have my cling wrap. Then I have my light-colored duct tape. Then I have a Sharpie, something that will match with whatever colored duct tape I've bought. And then some scissors as well. You definitely don't want to get stuck in your duct tape dress form and not have scissors anywhere in sight. And then finally, before I get started, I like to have just a rough idea of what I'm drawing out. So I have a few sketches, and bear in mind, I am by no means an artist. So I am just gonna focus on this little one down here for the style on my front. So I'll draw in where all my boning should go, where I'll be doing my little embellishments, and then what the back will look like as well. Also, in case you see any dog hair on me today, I've got my little assistant napping whilst I do this. One final pro tip, quickly go to the loo before you start strapping yourself in. Alright, and now it is time to get started. So I am just going to be focusing on my bodice today. Sometimes I do a section of skirt, or at least the top of my skirt, to know sizing as well. But today I will just do from sort of upper hip to about here. So I'm going to start by wrapping myself in cling wrap. Okay, that is my cling wrap all on. So now it is time to start applying my duct tape. I just kind of do it in strips for the wider areas. Whoa, that has already stuck. And then over my chest, I try to do them in smaller strips because I found when I do it in bigger strips, it kind of compresses my boobs, and then actually I end up without enough space in my chest area. Okay, and that is the duct tape all taped on for my front. For the back, we move to the mirror. The shoulders are a little bit trickier when you're on your own. So I just sort of stick it, throw it down, and then cut and press wherever I can reach. Alrighty, and that is my front and my back all done. Next, it's time to trace out the look I want. So I'm going to start by drawing out some sort of main lines. The first point I'm going to mark is my midway point. So I am just finding where my belly button is, which is about there, and then I will go from the middle of my throat and draw straight down. Belly button's like there, throat, and that midpoint here. Normally I like to have this midway point even if I'm not doing any stitching or boning down the center, because if I do some nice looking pieces and shapes sort of on the left, and they're not as good on the other side, then I like to just flip them over to make sure my pieces are all symmetrical. So if these two couple of sides look a little bit different, that is not a problem. You can just pick the side you prefer, and then when you're tracing out your pattern, you'll just flip that over. The next crucial couple of lines I'm going to draw on is where my waist is, and then where I want that top piece to end. So the waist is the smallest point. I'm just doing a dotted line because that's not where I want my garment to end. If possible, I go around the back, but it's a little trickier. And now for where I want my top to end. For the back, I am just going to try and trace around as much as I can to show where the end point of the top is. The next lines I'm going to draw on are where my sides should be. Alright, and there are my two sides drawn on. Next, I want to do my neckline. So I'm taking my little sketch and I will just mark up where I want my shoulder pieces to go, where I want the neckline to sit, and then the underarms as well. So those are my main lines done for my front, and then done under my arm and sort of over my shoulder for the back, which it's a little bit rough, but it's great to have the guide, and then when I'm cutting it out and putting it onto some paper, I'll be able to see and finalize all the lines and everything, so I'm not worried too much about it being perfect right now. Next, I'm just going to add some more stylistic detail. So where I want the rest of my boning to go, that will form separate pieces of the front. All right, I have everything drawn out. Finally, I am just going to label my little pieces so that it's much easier when I lay them down to remember what's what. And that is my styling all done onto my duct tape. Now I'm going to very, very carefully cut myself out of this, and I am going to cut along one of my side seams. I'm just making sure I put my fingers between the cling wrap and my clothing. Time to get out of this, and then I will move on to getting these onto some paper and making them actual pattern pieces. Oh, it's tied around the neck. Oh, freedom. Here she is. Beautiful. Time to start cutting out my duct tape pieces. So I'm going to start with the back just because they are the two biggest pieces. So I will cut out and around and down. So next I'm cutting my top right down the middle, and then cutting around the neck and arms the same as I did the back pieces. Because both halves are different, I'm now going to have a look particularly focused on the front and see which half I prefer, because I need this to be symmetrical. So for whatever half I pick, I'll take that front and back, flip it over, and then trace it to be the other side. So I think I'm going to go with this half. Firstly, I'm going to take this back piece, trace it out, and then flip it over to do the opposite side. To position this onto my paper, I'm just making sure that I have enough room around it for my seam allowances. And then for anything that needs to be pushed out, so normally around curves, or if there's bumps as there is with my chest, then I'm just making sure I spread the weight of the duct tape. Before I do anything else, I'm just going to label this piece. Now I'll go about defining my lines and then adding on my seam allowances. This is also an opportunity to change the shape if you're not quite happy with it, but I would exclude where you have joins. Time to add on my seam allowances, so I'm just doing 1 centimeter all around, bar this edge where I will be adding in my eyelets, but I'll probably do 3 centimeters here. Alrighty, now that I have my first back piece all traced out with the seam allowances added on, I'm going to cut it out, flip it over, and then I will trace that so that I have the opposite back piece. And those are my 2 back pieces complete. Time to move on to the front. Again, I'm just going to cut out my individual pieces, spread the weight across the bust, and then check the length of this shoulder join with the back piece that I already traced out. So to spread the weight, I am just pushing down the pattern piece as much as it will go, and then I'll trace around. It's pretty easy because they're cut into 3 different pieces. They will go quite flat. It's been different previously when I've done skirts because the booty is a lot rounder. Now I'm just checking that the 2 shoulders are the same length. So on the piece I've already done on the back, it's about 2.4, whereas the piece I just drew out is 3. So this will need to be more narrow. Now I'm just adding on my centimeter seam allowance again, getting my other middle piece traced out, and then I will cut all of these out. Okay, and that is my duct tape pattern pieces all done. Let me show you what they ended up making. Okay, and this top is what that duct tape pattern ended up making. Let me know if you do use this method to make your own pattern, because I'd be really curious to see how yours turned out. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.